dollar bill, yo.
So we've talked a little bit about the next version that's coming. It's .110. The reason that we have done the live freeze is to pick up momentum, and the reason for that is this is the single most impactful milestone we have ever done. It's the largest milestone we've ever done.
There's so much stuff coming in.
There's so much stuff in there. In some fundamental ways, the game, I think, will be unrecognizable, right? The tent pole, of course, is Guild versus Guild and the Dregs, but there's a whole bunch, which includes different victory conditions, other ways to win the campaign. It includes all the building stuff, city customization, which is huge. It also has the seasonal stuff coming in a big way. I mean, it's a massive update.
And then Halish and I are touching a lot of the older systems that we haven't touched in 2 years, that have just been kind of floating out there. We knew we had to get to it. It was just there was other more important things.
Yep.
So that's all going to get bundled in as well. So
this is a drive to beta is really what this really is. So I'm not going to bother to say drive to alpha because to me alpha is kind of a non-event. Alpha is something that I would imagine are you guys who watch us and watch us all the time. Those of you who show up for every live stream, you're awesome. Y'all will recognize that we've kind of shifted, but the market as a whole doesn't really care about pre-alpha versus alpha versus whatever.
The terms became so muddy.
The terms don't really mean a lot. Beta means something. To us, beta means we'll start actually inviting in waves the 300,000 registered players that we've been collecting over the course of the last, since Kickstarter, basically. Actually, since right before Kickstarter. So that's a big deal for us. That means we'll start to inject some real lifeblood in the game. And it also means that for the most part, the game is, we have I was going to say content complete and feature complete, but that's not true. It's an MMO. The game is hitting the point where we have the initial set of features and content that we feel are necessary to hit launch. And we already have now in plans the things that we want to add after launch. As you can imagine, we want more things than we could possibly get in before launch.
Always want more.
We always want more, but we have to draw the line at some point, and we feel like we're with 5.110, hitting that point where there's enough critical mass that we are distinguished from every other game out there, and there'll be enough playable game to say, all right, this is where we're ready to launch, and then all the other stuff we want to do, some of which is really cool, like incarnation system and all that kind of stuff, those will be great post-launch updates.
Yep.
So anyway, that's very exciting.
I'm getting a big feature today even, so I'm super jazzed.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
They're hitting really fast. There are some really fundamental things coming in this one, but we're
and I'm not going to spill the beans on this one, but
exactly.
I'm super jazzed.
There's some really, really cool stuff coming.
To know, can you place structures anywhere in the dregs? And this is a question I've seen quite a bit, and I didn't know how to answer.
So no, you can't. So with the eventual plan with complete free placement is still going to be bound by the token system that is working the EKs. Right now, our focus has been on allowing for a lot of customization and variability, but very limited in terms of actual where the things are going, because that's caused nothing but problems with the parcel system. So the amount of customization there is actually far greater than anything we've ever talked about in the past. The parcel flow is not quite there yet, but we're going to talk about all that later down the line.
Okay.
So I think that you guys are going to be very, very happy with the layer of customization. I'll say that is the few games, even Shadowbane at its like best, was much more limited in terms of customization and flexibility than what is going into 5.110.
Yeah, and even from a gameplay standpoint, Steven unlocked a really big feature for us about a month ago that design has now been pushing on, where we can now link the powers with the what's going on the parcel and the buildings. So it's created all these avenues of upgrades and customization, which is great because it gives you guys a lot of choice and a lot of stuff to do. And to do that stuff, you need to go out in the world and get stuff, which of course means that there's going to be PvP hotspots.
Yeah, so caravans, that's another thing coming online with this one as well. We try to come up with a lot more activities, refineries, that's coming on as well. So one of the things that, is it? Sorry, jumped forward. One of the things that I think is going to be really critical and really cool with this milestone is what you just referred to, which is I can drop a building or a spire or an object that can change the behavior for the entire siege. That's actually really, really cool and really impactful, but it also opens up new avenues for us to explore as well. There was a time in the past where an idea popped up on the forums, and it's come up numerous times since, that was can we have multi-stage objectives in a siege? For example, I don't just go Zerg the tree.
Right.
First, I have to take out this objective and this objective and this objective over here, and I have to do that in order to then enable me to take out the tree. And historically, my answer has always been, sorry, technically we can't do that. That is no longer the case. So we've actually solved that problem now. So we can do multiple stage objectives. We can also have a more graduated victory condition on a siege as opposed to just, do I take the city or not? I can go in with a particular intent, which is to cripple your city somehow. I want to take out this thing or I want to take out that thing in the city. So again, all of this is going to come out, but I have no doubt that you guys are going to look at where we got, and you're going to think that what we came up with is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
and very extensible for growth later. So somebody on his machine the other day was doing a pass over all of the passive skill training trees. That somebody was you, right? Yes. The passive skill training trees.
Yes.
So there you go. So one other thing that we're doing in 110 is we're doing a pass over those trees, and it looked like they were actually changing overall shape as well.
Oh,
Not just branching tree structures, but also like radial.
They are all radial. In fact, by the time 110 launches, every skill tree will be a radial tree.
Which is really cool.
And it will show, like, you'll look at a tree and you'll know if it goes from left to right, it's a talent tree. If it's a radial tree, it's a skill tree.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right, so they will have different feels, and all of the crafting trees got updated with stats that really do something. So one of the efforts of 5.1.10 was to get rid of all of the things that we thought we were going to get by launch and just get those out of there. Because there's clearly things that we know that aren't going to make it over the line.
Yeah.
So we're going to pull those out of the trees and put them with stuff that we have built in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So all of the trees are getting a pass.
Cool.
Next question is: are AOEs intended to go through walls?
Let me guess why this question came up. All right, because of the March of the Ganetians is why.
That
for sure. So do you want to give some background on what that was? Because it was kind of interesting. I love emergent behavior, even when the emergent behavior is a little harsh at times. So we had a group that got together a dozen or 20 or some large number of Ganetian duelists, and they went around as a pack, stealthing and popping up and just whacking people, right? So the problem was the video of that was arguably hilarious, and it was. Watching it from the other side, which was watching a streamer who's just like, I just died, and I don't even see what killed me, not nearly as funny. So the question number one is it supposed to work that way? So the answer is on the AOEs going through walls, no, absolutely. That's not supposed to work that way. On the question of if I get 20 players together and I go around whacking people, well, it's not really a duelist question at that point, right? If you get 20 players who are really skilled together going around, they are going to be pretty damn effective. Now, they shouldn't be this effective because of the AOE wall problem,
right?
For sure. It shouldn't be that easy. However, I mean, we're going to find tactics like that. That's going to happen.
That was always the intent with the duelist anyways, was they breach the walls via their tunnel power.
Yeah.
And they move around like a pack, and they just cause havoc in your backlines.
Yeah.
Which means you can't always just look outwards. You sometimes have to look back and see what's going on.
If it turns out that one strategy or tactic like this so this is the danger, right, of having an open design. Open-ended design means we kind of give you guys a bunch of toys, and you play with them, and you all figure out what's cool and what's fun and what's not. If it turns out that something is game-breaking, then obviously we have to step in and fix it. However, I also want, that's part of the fun, is finding really cool and interesting things. So it's a balance, right? I don't want to just go in and every time anybody finds something that is a cool combination or tactic that hadn't been thought of before, hit it with the Nerf stick. That sucks. We should obviously fix the problems first, and then we need to take a look at it and say, okay, is there a counter to this? If there's not a counter to it, then we need to figure out a way to allow people to have a counter.
And there is a counter to it in 5.1.10.
And in 5.1.10 there are some, so that'll help.
In fact, there's a really good one. One of the Sentinels.
Yep.
Has a power, and I'm not going to tell you what it does, but it makes this strategy
part of the city building that we talked about, city advancement. So it's a tough one. We'll definitely watch it. It's always a balance, right? I mean, in many times in PvP scenarios, the fun is not distributed equally, right? That is simply a fact that we have to deal with. So
however, at least we can fix the bug where
we should fix the bugs, and we should try and get it to be as balanced as we can. But I also do feel strongly about letting people experiment to find new tactics, because that's part of the promise of our game that you don't get out of a game that's on rails. So, next question is, are you going to update the user interface? Actually, we are.
We are updating the user.
And I hinted at this when I was doing the promotions for the stream and told them that you were going to be doing a first look. So yes, This is the first look reveal.
Okay, well, we have some significant changes coming to the way, it's actually fundamentally to the way sheathing and unsheathing and survival tray, action tray, combat, in and out of combat. We did an experiment to see if we could find something that we liked better, and it turns out that experiment was a success. Across the board, everyone who's tried it has said it feels better. So,
But that's not UI.
Yeah, it's part of UI. It's UX,
It
but
is
still,
UX.
it is part of it. In addition to that, there's also a pass on a bunch of the elements. There's some that I'd like us to have gotten that we haven't gotten to yet, like the lobby needs a pass. That'll have to come later.
Nick is primarily focusing on the in-game assets
Right, first.
in this
Makes
milestone.
sense. Yep.
And as he adds a new piece of functionality for 5.1.10, which is pretty much touching almost every UI, he's also adding in all of the elements that make it look like a finished product.
Yep, pretty cool.
So I believe we have a screenshot of that.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. So
I didn't know we were doing a screenshot of it.
Yes. So
Yes.
this is the new power tray. You will notice there's all kinds of framing elements. There's a little bit of smoke going there on the ultimate slot. There's now a dedicated recall and mount or saddle slot. There are some consumable slots in the upper left.
Yeah, so the mount one and the caravan one as well, right? We didn't have that. We didn't need it before because we didn't have that, but
Sure.
that's coming in 110, so we planned for that. You'll notice also the pip indicator there. I want to point out that that is your for classes that are pip mechanic-based classes. The harvesting pip indicator is not here, and in fact, we're going to punt that off into future gameplay only for people who invest in harvesting.
Correct.
So the random person who has not invested anything in harvesting, that part of the gameplay will be punted for them, so they won't even see it.
It is contained in a discipline now. It's in one of the exploration disciplines.
So
Okay, so just to verify, because they're asking, does this mean you're getting rid of tray switching?
I didn't say anything one way about that or the other, and that's a reveal that will come later, Val.
And if you look, there is a stealth. There was a stealth. There's a stealth widget there and a melee widget there on the left.
I can neither confirm nor deny. Next question, please. I have a bonus question because it wasn't on the sheets that we were given here, but it was brought up and asked, and I said, hey, we can talk about that on the live stream. So we're going to do that real quick, which is caravans. Specifically, we're not going to get into the details of the design of the caravan, but there are some things that are kind of obvious, right? Which is that you have to go to a mine or a quarry or a mill, and from there you get your caravan animal.
Yep.
And then you're going to drag that animal back, and you can either drag it to a refinery where you can break those things down into resources you can use to craft items, or you can take it, more likely, back to your stronghold and use it to build up your walls and your buildings and things like that. So one of the things that's really cool that I got to see last week come online is those caravans now being able to be taken through rune gates, which is really cool. So there was a big question internally about the additional tech that would be required to make them cross-world, and it was questionable about whether it would be worth it or not to us to do that, just because it seemed like a very expensive engineering task. The fear was if we didn't do it, it has design implications on the way we build the world.
Every
By
world would have
definition,
to have.
Every world is now going to have all of those resource POIs, points of interest, and if they didn't, then you would by definition not be able to build things on that world. So we have now resolved that. I saw the tech working. It was really cool. Took a pack pig through a rune gate, and so that's great. That's a better answer for us on the design side, so I'm glad to say that engineering effort is now working, which is pretty cool.
And I was tuning speeds and stuff like that, so when they follow you, there's ways to upgrade how fast they move, so you can write a mount on.
And the parcel adjective system also means we can do things like mark road tiles to give a boost to the speed of your caravans, which is really cool. So now I have a choice. Do I want to go faster down the road, knowing that other players are going to be waiting on the road looking for people to come by with a caravan, or I want to take them off-road and go through the forest, which will be slower but potentially slightly more camouflaged or more oblique. So, so that's really cool. All of that stuff is coming online, which is really super exciting as well.
Yeah, and it creates some great upgrade progression problems for the players to solve.
Yep.
Which is, do I want to upgrade the building where I turn in my caravan animals?
Yep.
There
or upgrade some other building that increases the speed of them, for example. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff now that's available to us that we never had.
Because one gives me more resources when I do the turn-in, potentially, and higher quality. And then the other gives me maybe faster animals with more health, or the point generator ticks faster.
What I
things
like
that.
about this too is it also means that I can adapt my, because this ties into the entire city advancement system. What I like about that is it means that I can actually adapt my city to match my team's playstyle.
Right.
So if I tend to have a team that's more industrious, right, and we tend to harvest and craft and caravan, and we're really good at that part, I can actually gear up my city to augment that. If I tend to have just combatants, then I can say, okay, I'm not going to worry as much about that.
Right.
I'm going to worry more about siege warfare, defending and attacking. So it's really cool. The offshoots of this thing are plentiful. It's a very, very, very deep pool now for us to draw from.
Yes.
So we'll, in the meantime, between now and then, we will be getting back to you guys with some of the ideas of here's some of the buildings and here's what they do for you and things like that. And clearly, by the time 110 comes, you'll have all the information. I think you're going to agree that it's an incredibly cool, very, very deep system.
And they'll probably have
that
more
we can
ideas,
grow
too.
on for years, for
Yeah,
sure.
there's always new buildings that can be added to the system.
Absolutely.
Is there a plan for scouting profession and map crafting? When yes, do you have new informations to give?
So scouting, yes, we do have a number of things planned for the stealth game. I don't think we're going to get all of those in by launch. We're going to see. Some of the things that I have are really interesting and experimental means risky, and now they're hitting the point where we need to do less risk before launch and push some of that risk to after launch. We did for a long time experiment with map reveal, right? So we actually had Cloud of War, and you came in and you didn't know what was around the corner. You didn't even know what the map was.
We had the cartography, like
Yeah,
the crafting
we did.
of
So
stuff too.
what we found was that the amount of pain that was causing in other areas of design wasn't necessarily worth the benefit, given that it's an MMO and the new maps a cluster would come online and literally the worlds would be mapped out within about the first hour and then shared everywhere on the net. So it kind of it didn't have the same feeling that I was hoping for out of Civilization, where, hey, I'm going to have to reveal this world and I'm going to have to see where everything is, because the parallelization that just naturally flows out of having hundreds or, God forbid, thousands and thousands of players means that discovery doesn't really happen. So so we kind of pulled a lot of that out. I'm still of a mind to reapproach it. I've got some other ideas I'd like to try there, but the initial foray, it didn't seem like that was warranted, so we kind of fell back to, all right, let's go back to, we'll have procedural worlds, we'll have randomly generated maps, but we're not going to do the fog of war. We'll have to reapproach that and look for it again sometime later. So I'm not opposed to it. I still love the idea. It just didn't quite work. So, and at some point it was causing us a lot of pain doing other things related to the map. And for example, we had for a while we had toyed with a scouting system where for each player we were recording what things looked like the last time they were there, so that I could go to Blair City at 2 o'clock on Thursday and my map now showed what it looked like at 2 o'clock on Thursday. But if it was burned down on Friday, if I come in on Saturday and look at my map, I'm still looking at a map that was out of date. And then we were going to do a check-in, check-out system where I could check in the most recent changes. It got to be a giant mess, and I just felt like we were spending way too much resource on it and not getting the payoff that it deserved. So anyway, so there we go.
And
fell back.
And in fact, in the exploration skill tree where all of that scouting and tracking used to be is now the movement basically
Benefits,
area.
yeah.
Right. All of the movement speed benefits, there's a little bit of movement defense in there. That's where the mount saddle grants are. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that has replaced that.
Yeah, so there's some of these things that I really wanted to do all the way back in Kickstarter. I talked about it, was super excited about them. And what happened was we tried them and we experimented on them a lot to a point where I thought, you know what, this is no longer, it's either not going to work or it's not going to work in the time, and eventually had to fall back. That is unfortunate. I wish every one of these ideas simply worked and was amazing. That just doesn't always happen. So the answer was fall back and move forward on the project, and I think it was the right call.
And a lot of, fallback it's hard to do because you've spent
for
time and you think maybe if I just make this one or two tweaks, it'll work. But a lot of times it's just better.
It's actually one of the hardest parts of being a designer, right? You have to kill your own babies, right? You have this idea that you think is going to be so great, and well, Val, it's just a phrase.
Terrible. Find another one. That's horrible.
Oh, whatever. You have to sacrifice your own children to the altar of experimentation and production. So
yeah. So, anyways,
it happens. It
Will
sucks,
the
but it
next
is what it is.
update have changes to ballistas?
all of the siege weapons are getting a pass as part of the city building.
The entire siege loop actually is getting a pass.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of change coming there because it has to now be adapted over to the well, one thing that we got internally, which is really cool, we never had before, is city building tools. So previous to this, you'll notice the keeps all kind of looked like boxes. They were very uniform. We actually have a lot of variability in terms of, you know, wooden gates and palisades and barricades and all that kind of stuff that we can battlements that we can put on castles, and yet in the siege game we were using none of those.
Right.
So we finally have a tool that we can actually build that stuff out. So you're going to see a pretty significant update in terms of city building, city advancement, and sieging.
Frostweaver.
It's in 5.1.10. There you go. That's it.
When are we going to be able to tell them more and show them some stuff?
I don't know. It'll come out when it comes out, Val.
You can write to Debbie Sue at
Debbie Sue 99. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's totally not
Like
Debbie Sue.
everything else, when things are done and, you know, we know what they are and they have all their looks and everything in, that's when we typically share them.
Zach. I don't hate Frostweaver. It's just become like, if you're in a band and you're playing in a club, there's always at least one person who starts yelling out "Freebird." So it's kind of like that. It's just Frostweaver has become Crowfall's Freebird to me. It's like we'll talk about it when we can talk about it. I actually had tried to put it on the news schedule and it got redlined. So there you go.
Yeah, it's gummed up in content is the actual answer. I think most of it is actually design-wise is built at this point.
It's complete, yeah.
It's just now waiting on content, particles, and sound and
sounds
stuff like that.
and icons and all the polishing.
I mean, one of them had to be last ultimately.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is that a bunch of other stuff came online that took priority, especially design priority over it. So.
Something to look forward
Yes, Palmanantre, when the Frostweaver is ready for prime time, I will make sure that we get some stuff out there.
Yep, for sure.
What I do. And then last question, because we're almost out of time. Yumix, aka Debbie Sue, wants to
What's
know
your question?
When we'll start seeing stuff on the test server. They are anxious to get their hands.
You know,
into
that's an
this.
interesting question. So let me, because there's a slight difference in approach this time versus previous. In previous milestones, we've kind of waited till all the things come together, and then it goes to test, and then we let it cook there for a while, and then it goes kind of like proving in the oven, and then it goes over and it makes it to live. And in this case, I think what we're going to find is we're working on different things that are kind of self-contained. So as those individual pieces get done, some of them will migrate over to the test server sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. And I might actually like one of those in particular, guild versus guild, right? Being just able to come in and have my guild identity basically untethered to a faction. That may be enough for me to actually say we're going to go ahead and internally call it alpha, because I think pre-alpha to alpha is a kind of a non-event, and that to me is that's our great Rubicon. When we cross that line, that's when we've really kind of come into our own. That's
right.
when our game is now significantly different than anything else you can get out there. So the short answer is I actually think relatively soon we'll start to see some things pop on the test
Got to put the
server.
engine back in.
But it's going to be kind of weird for you guys to look at, because it won't be like our typical here's the soup, try the soup. It'll be here's some carrots, try some carrots. Here's some potatoes, try some potatoes. We'll be feeding it out piece by piece, and until you get it all together, it'll be exciting, but it won't have the resonance. It won't really make sense. So,
yeah, but our car engine, excuse me, is just kind of in the air right now because we're working underneath it. We got to put that thing back in.